Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back because now that today's finale of the show came out and has come to a conclusion with the first season, I am going to give you guys a spoiler-filled review of Peacemaker. It is created by James Gunn, who directed The Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2, and also his two other movies, Super and Slither. And it stars John Cena, Jennifer Holland, Steve Agee, and Chukwudi Iwuji, and many more in this series. And before we get started, don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below, so don't forget to do that while you're at it. And like I mentioned, it's going to be a spoiler review. Now that the whole season has just came out, I'm going to go into details without holding back. And with that said, let's get started. The show is set months after the events of the Suicide Squad, where Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, is enlisted in an Argus Black Ops operation led by Clemson Murn, where they must take out an alien race called the Butterflies. This show was such a blast. I had a fun time with the Suicide Squad. When that came out last summer, really enjoyed all those new characters, from Peacemaker to Bloodsport to Ratcatcher 2 and Polka Dot Man and King Shark. And so after the movie, we had an end credits scene that sets up the Peacemaker show. And I was really looking forward to seeing this show. And this show exceeded my expectations. James Gunn once again knocks it out of the park. We're taking a obscure character like Peacemaker and makes him a character that audiences can care for and relate to. And what I loved here is they made him far more likable in this show than he was in the Suicide Squad, especially where he kills Rick Flag because of orders he was given from Amanda Waller, and got into that standoff with Bloodsport, which led to him being out of commission in that movie, and which also helps sets up where we see him in the start of the show. And I really liked how we got to see the character development with Peacemaker, where he's trying to deal with his relationship with his racist father, and he's trying to deal with working with all these people, especially Freddie Stroma's Vigilante and Hardcore and Murn, all these other characters, and see him open up to these characters, and to see him start to realize that maybe he doesn't want to be the killer that he used to be anymore. And I really liked how they did that. I loved how it handles relationships and family, especially with the dynamic between Peacemaker and his father. Great stuff there, led by terrific performances from both John Cena and Robert Patrick. The performances here are just really great, especially from the whole crew. Steve Agee is really funny on the show as John Economos. There are some really fun moments that happen with his character, especially in episode 5 when he comes in and saves Peacemaker by killing that gorilla. That was insane. And so as when he saves Vigilante them and kills all of the racist people that helped White Dragon. That was really, really shocking and fun to see, especially from a character like him. And I really liked Hardcore. I liked how she's tough, and you see that she starts to have a bit of a soft side for these characters as the season progresses. And I really liked that, played by Jennifer Holland. And I really liked Leota Adebayo, played by Danielle Brooks. I think she was a really fun character. I loved how she doesn't seem to have as much experience as some of the other characters, and how she gets thrust into all of these insane situations they get themselves into. She's a really fun character, and I love her dynamic with Peacemaker, with Hardcore, and how she fits into the story. And she's a really important character as the season progresses, like everybody else. And I really enjoyed her a lot, and I really enjoyed Chukwudi Iwuji as Murns. I thought he is really fun. I like his presence on the screen. He's demanding. He really commands the screen when he's on screen. And I just love how he plays a character who he's trying to get all of these characters on this mission to take down the Butterflies. I think he's just a really great character here. And I think as an acting performance-wise, I really liked him on this show. In general, I just liked everybody in the show. I think the cast members were great. And not only were the cast members great, but so was the pacing. This is an 8-episode series, and I absolutely love it. I think with all these 8 episodes, it feels very well paced. It never felt slow. It never felt rushed. It never felt like there were too many plot lines happening all at once. It has a story that's focused. We know what to focus on, and it does all the big things it needs to do, and it does it right with well execution. It's done really well. Never once with the show have I felt bored. Never once did I feel like, are we going to get to something big soon? I was hooked. And once I was hooked, I was simply on board until the very end. It is just really great. And the story I was really interested in, with how Peacemaker is in this mission after what happened in the Suicide Squad when he killed Rick Flag, and how that haunts him, how maybe he doesn't want to be that kind of killer anymore, especially with how just his father and how he hates it, his father hates him and all of that stuff, and how he's trying to be on this mission and he's conflicted on doing the things he used to do here. And I really liked how that plays out here. It's done really well, and how it focuses on characters. Because one of the things I love about James Gunn with his work is he does a great job at taking these characters and making us care. I had no idea I was going to love Guardians of the Galaxy as much as I did, but here we are. I loved Volume 1, and I really liked Volume 2. And one of the reasons why I really liked Volume 2 was the character work, because it was a much more character-focused movie with arcs for Rocket and Star-Lord and Gamora and Yondu. The character stuff is really great, and it's very emotional to watch. And Peacemaker does have plenty of moments there, and even when they happen, they really do land. The emotional moments work really well here, just as they do in even the Suicide Squad, which also had great characterization for all these other characters that might be so wacky, comic booky. And this show was able to take all of those things that James Gunn does really well with all of his other works, and he applies it here, and it is absolutely fantastic. This show is also really funny. Now, one of my issues, I will say, is that at times, some of the humor doesn't always land. Especially, I think the first 2 episodes, if you're not a fan of the certain kind of humor episodes 1 and 2 have, it's going to take a bit for you to get into, especially for me, because they did do those kind of jokes a lot. They don't always land, but then there are times where it does. But episode 3 and onwards, I think the jokes land a lot for the majority of the runtime. It is very funny. There's some really raunchy comedy here, and it's that James Gunn style we like. If you love the humor in the Suicide Squad and in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, or even in his other works before this, you are going to find something to laugh at here. I think the humor lands really well here. It can be an acquired taste for some people, but I think for me, most of the jokes do land. The storyline with Peacemaker in this operation to take out the butterflies I thought was really great. I was wondering at first, what are the butterflies? What is this main threat here? And then you find out at the end of 3 when you see Goff, the first butterfly you see on the show, and that's what it was. And then as the show progresses, you learn more about these butterflies and how dangerous they are, and that they can take over a human body and take their place. And it's very horrifying in terms of body horror, because in episode 6 there is a lot of body horror moments, especially with butterflies getting into people's body for control, and that was really dark to see, which I really like, because this is with R-rated. Gunn was able to just do whatever he wanted, and it truly shows on the show. If you love Slither, which is body horror he did, then you're going to find something to enjoy here, because there are certainly body horror moments to be found here. And I really liked all the plot twists we've had, like Murn. You actually find out a butterfly and inhabits him, and how the characters react to it, and how Peacemaker and Vigilante, they're just thrown into the mix here, and how they respond to all this whole alien invasion thing and all that, and what are they going to do, how do we stop it, and all of that. And I really like just even the storyline with his father, with how Peacemaker feels guilty for not only what happened to Rick Flag, but he also felt guilty for what happened to his brother when he was a kid, and how they both fought in the finale as just to play, and then it killed him, and he felt guilty for it, and it truly shows you here. And how his father hates him for it. And you see just that dynamic and the relationship that they had, and how you see that his father is just not a good person, and that Peacemaker, he struggles to like get out of that shadow and to just get away from the fact that that's his father and that his father doesn't like him, and how it just truly it affects his character going forward, and how what the characters do regarding the relationship with his father really affects everything else. And I think they do that really well here, because I do love how James Gunn was able to do that, especially in Guardians 2 with Star-Lord and Ego, where you find out that Ego was the person that killed Star-Lord's mom, and you find out, and then the Suicide Squad, when you have the dynamic between Bloodsport and his daughter, and how you also had Ratcatcher 2 and those little flashbacks with Ratcatcher 1. There's a good bit of that father-son dynamic that James Gunn had in his other projects that are here, and they're done very well. They're executed well, and I think they played out really well in terms of emotion and performance-wise and all that. I think I really enjoyed what the storyline with that has to offer, and I think it was very well culminated, where John Cena's Peacemaker decides he kills his own father because he knew it's like he cannot stay alive. He's too dangerous, and because of how he just antagonizes him and all that, and he needed to be free from him, and so he pulls the trigger, and you see how it affects him. And I think the emotions really well, and this is easily John Cena's best performance as a character to date, and it comes from the Peacemaker show. He is fabulous here, and I really enjoyed what he was able to do with his career with F9, the Fast Saga, the Suicide Squad, and even I enjoyed that Vacation Friends movie that he did. And this is easily his best work thus far in his career, and I am really looking forward to seeing what John Cena does from here. And man, oh man, let me just bring up how crazy the cow was. We all know about there was this cow that the butterflies use as resource to survive, and when I saw that thing, that was just crazy. I did not expect it to be that, but it just works. And I think it's funny how they were able to take a character like Peacemaker and throw him in an alien invasion kind of story, and I think they were actually able to do that really well, and it was such a blast. And the action sequences are awesome. I love seeing Peacemaker and Harcourt and Vigilante. They take on the butterflies in the finale in a whole fight sequence. That was really cool. But then I also love the fight sequences with Peacemaker and the lady in that first episode, and just all that crazy stuff that happens in terms of action, I think, are done really well here. They're really fun to watch, and it is probably one of the more action-packed shows we've had thus far when it comes to comic book shows recently. And it's just such a blast to watch. They are done so well. They're shot well. They look good in terms of visuals, and it's just an absolute blast. The action sequences here are so cool. The MVP of the show that I really liked was Freddie Stroma as Vigilante. I was really curious to see him on the show, and I think he was really funny. I found his performance to be really great. I love his dynamic with John Cena's Peacemaker, and I love how, compared to Peacemaker, he has no problem with just killing bad guys or just killing people and all that stuff compared to him. And he's just so fun to watch on screen, and he's really funny, especially with his one-liners and how it's like his responses and all of that stuff. He is such a fun character, and I really enjoy him so much. He's one of my favorite characters to come out of the show. And when Vigilante's in action, he is awesome. Whenever he's in action with a gun, with a sword, he is such a cool character, and I love that dynamic between him and Peacemaker. It's really fun to see. I never knew I was going to enjoy this dynamic as much as I did, because that's how well it worked in terms of the writing and performance and the dynamic both actors have. I think they're just really great. And I love how characters like Harcourt and Economos were taken from the Suicide Squad, and then they were put here, and I really liked them here, especially as they have more character work. You know more about these characters than you did on the Suicide Squad, and I really liked how it played out here. So I think it was such a good decision that James Gunn brought those characters into this show following that movie, especially with what happens with those characters. And I think I really enjoyed just that whole team dynamic they have here. And they had some really fun moments and some really cool scenes, especially when it's just them planning out how to learn about the butterflies, whether it's as an action sequence like in episode 5, or whether it's in the finale when they go out there to stop the butterflies and the cows once and for all, and all that stuff. It's just, I love their dynamic. It's one of the best parts of the show, and because all the cast members were so great, the writing was great, the story was interesting, and it's just such a fun show that it really hits the landing, and it's such a delight to see. Oh, let's talk about Agee. Agee is awesome. His scenes with Peacemaker is just gold. Especially, we got the moments where Agee hugs Peacemaker, which was just heartwarming. One of the things I thought was really surprising from the finale was that we actually got cameos from the Justice League. We got to see Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And now you don't see Wonder Woman and Superman in full. So Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot do not come back in the show. But you do get to see Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa, which I was really surprised by. I thought just Peacemaker coming in there, just saying how they're late and how Aquaman does things with fish. That's really funny. It fits the nature of the show because this is a raunchy comedy in terms of humor. And it's not always going to work for everybody. But for me, I found it funny. It felt in character with Peacemaker and just how those Justice League characters would react to a character like him. So I thought seeing that cameo in the finale, I think, was actually really funny. Not something I expected to see, and I thought it was just great. And we also got a name drop for none other than Green Arrow, and I hope that means we're going to get him in the DCEU soon. Fingers crossed. My only problems with the show is that sometimes the humor doesn't always land, and especially primarily in those first 2 episodes, and that sometimes it took a bit for me to get into the show. While I did really enjoy episode 1, I just felt like it wasn't until episode 2 to 3 where I really start to get hooked on the show. And then once the mission with the butterflies began, that was when I really started to get invested in the show. And that's when I really started to feel like the show is starting to hit its stride. Because once episode 3 happens, every episode after that, I absolutely love. It is such a fun show. And I think with these 8 episodes is really great. And I wish more comic book shows would have 8 to 10 episodes. I think is a perfect number for stuff like this. And Peacemaker once again delivers. And I'm so happy that this show just got confirmed for a season 2. I'm so happy because James Gunn created such a terrific comic book show with Peacemaker. And I love John Cena and the crew with the show. And so I'm happy it's getting another season. I cannot wait for that to start happening at some point. Overall, I had an absolute blast with this show. It's such a surprise that exceeded all my expectations. It's raunchy, it's funny, it's action-packed, full of great performances and some great character work. And Peacemaker is just such a blast from start to finish. And it is one of my favorite projects to come out of the DCEU to date. So in the end, I am going to give Peacemaker an A. And I highly recommend you stream it on HBO Max. Let me just add that the opening credits to Peacemaker are so good and it's so fun to watch that it easily joins the likes of Daredevil for shows with intros that I will never skip. James Gunn just cannot do any wrong. Guardians 1 is amazing. Guardians 2 is also amazing to me. And the Suicide Squad is fantastic. And this show once again proves to me James Gunn can do no wrong in terms of comic book content, and I cannot wait to see him return to direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and to see this upcoming holiday special he has in store. And I also cannot wait to see what he has in store for Peacemaker Season 2, as it is told he's going to direct and write every episode of Season 2. So I really can't wait to see what story and what are they going to do with Season 2 with these characters. I cannot wait to see all that. I love this show, and I hope you guys did too. And anyway, thank you guys so much for watching my review of Peacemaker. Those are my thoughts on the season. Let me know down below in the comment section, what did you think of Peacemaker Season 1? I'd love to hear down below in the comment section. Did you love it? Were you indifferent on it? Not too big of a fan of the humor and all that? I'd love to hear it down below in the comment section. So don't forget to let me know down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.
It's a grenade I tied to a Russian tank shell.
Why not just the grenade?
Grenade blows up like 2 people.
How many people does this blow up?
I don't know. I invented it this morning.
What?
Eat peace, mother.